In the quiet village of Elmridge, there lived a man named Thomas Bennett. He wasn't the richest or the most powerful, but he had something far greater, a heart full of kindness. Thomas believed that what he had was a blessing meant to be shared. Whether it was food, clothes, or time, he never hesitated to help those in need. His parents had taught him the value of kindness, and he lived by one simple principle: what I have is not mine alone. It is a blessing meant to be shared. Thomas was a farmer, owning a modest piece of land where he grew wheat, corn, and vegetables. He also raised chickens, cows, and sheep, ensuring that he and his household had enough food. Yet, unlike many who stored up wealth for themselves, Thomas saw his farm as a gift from God to bless others. Whenever a widow needed food, Thomas would send baskets of grain. When an orphan lacked shoes, he would buy them a sturdy pair. If a traveler came through Elmridge with nothing but the clothes on his back, Thomas would welcome him to his table, offering food and shelter. One winter, a terrible famine struck Elmridge. The river froze and the fields lay barren. Many villagers suffered greatly, struggling to find enough food. Panic spread among the people, but Thomas remained calm. He opened his storehouses and said to the people, "Come and take what you need. No one in this village should go hungry while I have food to share." Some of his friends warned him, "Thomas, if you give away too much, you may not have enough for yourself." But Thomas only smiled and said, "God will provide. I cannot turn away those in need." To everyone's amazement, his supplies never seemed to run out. No matter how much he gave, there was always enough for the next person in need. His barn had always something to give. One day, a wise old traveler came to Elmridge. He had heard of Thomas' generosity and wanted to see him for himself. Upon meeting Thomas, the traveler said, "Tell me, young man, what is the secret to your never-ending abundance?" Thomas laughed softly and replied, "There is no secret. I simply give as God leads me, and He always replenishes my supply." The traveler nodded. "You have unlocked a great truth. The more you give, the more you receive. This is the way of the Lord." Thomas's kindness was not only a blessing to himself, but also to the entire village. Inspired by his example, others in Elmridge began to share what little they had. Soon, neighbors were helping neighbors, and the village flourished like never before. Thomas's fields, once small and ordinary, began to produce an extraordinary harvest. His cattle multiplied beyond what seemed natural, and his wealth grew, not in gold and silver, but in favor, peace, and joy. Merchants from neighboring towns came to trade with Thomas, offering him great riches in exchange for his crops and livestock. But Thomas did not hoard his wealth. He used it to build a school for the children, a well for clean water, and a shelter for the poor. Years passed, and Thomas became a legend in Elmridge. People often said, "He is the man who gives everything, yet never lacks anything." His life became a testimony of God's promise. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Proverbs 11:25. Even in old age, Thomas never changed. He continued to give, love, and serve his people. When he finally passed away at a ripe old age, the entire village mourned, but they did not weep as those without hope. They celebrated the life of a man who had shown them what it meant to be truly blessed. The story of Thomas was told to every child in Elmridge, a reminder that true wealth is not in what we keep, but in what we give. And so, the man who gave without fear, lived without lack, and died with a heart full of peace. Trusting in God is not in vain.